Is it audible now? Is it? Can someone confirm? Is my voice here?
Yes, Dr.
Oh.
Bala, you can start.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, now today's topic we are just going to deal with one of the most important topics for biochemistry, that is especially NEET or probably your next exams from next year. Okay, so this topic is one of the very lightest topics, and this lighter topic is to not you should not be taken this into a very careless manner. Okay, so this topic is about nutrition, vitamins and minerals. So basically, the next so the AIMS examination or the NEET examinations, we have both the competitive examinations, NEET as well as NEET as of now. In the NEET examination, the most important focus will be on molecular biology, but as far as NEET examination is concerned, last 2-3 years the trend has been majority of the questions are from vitamins and minerals. Okay, and when it comes to vitamins and minerals, specifically, the trend is about this one particular disease, pellagra. That is also a point which I would like to share to you. But we are not going to, stick to only specific topics. I'm going to give you an overlay of all the above, all the things which can happen with nutrition, vitamins, and minerals. Okay. So before we go into the topic per se, let me start with the basics of nutrition. The basics of nutrition: the food which we are consuming is called as proximate principles. Okay, so the proximate principles are basically three things. One is carbs, the other is fats, and then we have the proteins. So basically we have energy coming like 4 kcal per gram of carbs. The same goes to 4 kcal per gram of proteins, and it's 9 kcal for fats. So this is the level of energy which can be obtained from carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And carbohydrates is basically the most preferred source of energy, followed by fats. And last preferred source of energy is protein. Proteins are not so easily preferred as the energy sources of our energy yielding sources when it comes to our body. And also, come to the next page. When we come to nutrition, nutrition is the art in which the consumption of foods and its conversion to energy. Nutrition is the subject which deals with the consumption of food and its conversion to energy. And there is a terminology called as malnutrition. The word mal means wrong. Originally, malaria was considered to be coming from air. They thought that malaria has been spreading from air. That is why they named the disease as malaria. That's wrong air. So, but later they discovered that the malaria was not spreading from air; it was spread by mosquitoes. Okay, so that is the reason. Wrong means it can be undernutrition. Undernutrition is also wrong. Overnutrition is also wrong. Many people are under the impression that malnutrition means it is only the lesser nutrition. No, okay, it is not only the lesser nutrition. When you consume something when the excess of what is required, then it is called as overnutrition. That is also called as malnutrition. And what is this topic called as limiting amino acids? In certain foods there are certain amino acids which are rich, and there are certain amino acids which are actually lacking. Say for example, pulses are rich in lysine, deficient in methionine. Whereas cereals are rich in methionine but deficient in lysine. Now you could see that is the reason why we consume idli with sambar or dosa with sambar. Okay, idli or dosa is basically cereals. Okay, these cereals are rich in methionine, but they do not have lysine with them. But the pulses which you are using in sambar or whatever it is, they are having basically lysine rich and but they are methionine poor. So this is a compensation between the idli and dosa and the sambar. Okay, so the pulses and cereals, what is lacking in pulses is rich in cereals. What is lacking in cereals is rich in pulses. That is the reason why they are preferred together as food. This is a basic principle behind something called as balanced diet. The next terminology is basal metabolic rate. The next terminology is basal metabolic rate. And basal metabolic rate is the amount of energy required to sustain life, okay, at complete physical and mental rest. So that means that when you are closing your eyes, sitting in a chair without doing any kind of work, not even thinking about something, what is the amount of energy that is required to sustain your bodily processes in order to make sure that your heart beats, your lungs breathe, all those things. Okay, that amount of energy is called as basal metabolic rate, and this basal metabolic rate has a formula. It is calculated like this: 24 into body weight in kgs. 24 into body weight in kgs. And if you want to physically measure the basal metabolic rate, this is called as Benedict Roth apparatus. That is the apparatus which is required to measure BMR. What are the conditions in which the BMR is increased or decreased? So the conditions in which the BMR is increased. Okay, whenever there is increased metabolism, the basic metabolism rate is increased, like hypothyroid, fever, males, and children. So when will the BMR be decreased? Whenever there is decreased metabolism, like hypothyroid, okay, in cold means higher altitudes, okay, and females and elderly. In all these conditions, we have decreased BMR. So you must know what are the conditions in which the basal metabolic rate is elevated, what are the conditions in which the basal metabolic rate is decreased. The next topic is something called as specific dynamic action, or this is otherwise called as postprandial thermogenesis. But before we go into this topic, I want to teach about some other topic called as daily energy expenditure. Okay, daily energy expenditure. Daily energy expenditure is the amount of energy which you are supposed to expend, okay, which you are supposed to expend on a daily basis, and this is calculated by multiplying two things: physical activity factor into BMR. Physical activity factor into BMR. And what is this physical activity factor? It is 1.3 for sedentary lifestyle, 1.7 for moderate workers, and 1.9 for heavy workers. So most of us would fall under this category, 1.3 category. Okay, so I'm going to write this as 1.3 into BMR. But I've already told you BMR is nothing but 24 into body weight. So this is the amount of energy which you are supposed to averagely spend per day, or this is the amount of energy which you are supposed to consume on a daily basis so that you will meet your daily activities. Okay, so sometimes we overeat, we don't spend the energy. Not sometimes, most of the times we are all overeating, we are not spending any kind of energy. So physical activity is very less, and all the excess energy gets stored as if the excess energy is in the carbohydrates, it gets stored as glycogen. If the excess energy is in the fat form, then it gets stored as triglyceride. So all those things I've told you. So that is the reason why when they are getting stored, you put on weight. Okay, so no physical activity means more storage of the fuels in their storage forms, corresponding storage forms, and then you put on weight. But there's a catch here. Whenever you eat food, some amount of energy is used to burn the food. Okay, so that is like 10% of energy is used to burn the food you eat. Burn the food you eat. So basically, this is called as specific dynamic action or postprandial thermogenesis. Postprandial thermogenesis. So what they're saying is the amount of food you should take should be your daily energy expenditure plus SDA. So this SDA, if you are not taking this excess 10%, they are giving you an allowance of extra 10%. See, imagine like this. I am telling you, you go and you go from Chennai to if you are in Chennai, then I am telling you, you go from place A to place B, and in place B, collect that parcel and come back. So that collecting the parcel is the work, but then you have to commute between place A and place B. Okay, you have to go from A to B and come from B to A. I need to give you the petrol allowance for A to B or B to A. Okay, because many times what do they say? They will pay you for the work, but they will not pay you for the commutation. So that kind of same principle can be applied here. So you eat the food, it's okay, you eat the food and you burn the food. But when you are burning the food, 10% of the energy which is obtained from the food is used or expended for burning the food. So let's cut some slack here. So you are not exactly getting whatever you are eating. You are eating 2000 kcals, which means that 200 kcals are going to burn that food. So you are only getting 1800. So what I'm proposing here is you eat extra 200, so you make it 2200 kcals. When it's burned, you will get somewhere around 9980 kcals, which will match your daily energy expenditure. Okay, so all these three terminologies are very important, but so far they have not been asked in any kind of examination. What has been asked in the examinations is this: respiratory quotient. Respiratory quotient is an indicator for efficiency of a fuel consumption. Efficiency of a fuel consumption. So the fuels are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. I told you that carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So respiratory quotient is nothing but amount of CO2 generated divided by amount of O2 consumed. So when a fuel burns completely, 100% burning of that fuel, then the respiratory quotient will be 1, which means that entire oxygen has been converted into carbon dioxide. This will happen in carbohydrates. This will happen in carbohydrates. But fats are substances which are partially burned, so their respiratory quotient is 0.7 for fats. The respiratory quotient is 0.7 for fats. So this is about carbohydrates and fats. I'm not talking about proteins here because proteins are least preferred as fuels. Proteins are broken down only when the body is undergoing starvation. They are never broken down to release energy. The proteins are broken down only when the body is undergoing starvation. That said, proteins, already I have told you, proteins are proxy for something called as nitrogen balance. So proteins are proxy for nitrogen balance. And I have already told you in the last class, when the protein intake exceeds excretion, then you are said to be in a positive nitrogen balance. You are said to be in a positive nitrogen balance. When the protein intake is less than excretion, you are said to be in a negative nitrogen balance. Negative nitrogen balance. So with this backdrop, let us go ahead and find out some terminologies like this. The first terminology I'm going to introduce to you is something called as digestibility coefficient. Digestibility coefficient is amount of nitrogen intake. Okay, amount of sorry, it's not nitrogen intake, it is nitrogen absorbed by divided by nitrogen intake. So how much amount of nitrogen you have taken and how much is absorbed into the bloodstream, that is called as digestibility coefficient. And then there is something called as biological value or BV. The nitrogen that is retained when compared to the nitrogen that is absorbed. So that is the biological value. And then you have the last indicator, that is the best among all. This is called as net protein utilization. Net protein utilization. So this is biological value into dz, which means N2 retained divided by N2 absorbed into N2 absorbed by into intake. So we'll cut down that absorbed. So this will come out like this: N2 retained by N2 intake. N2 retained by N2 intake. And this NPU is the best indicator of protein quality. So more the NPU means more better the protein is there. One of the very best proteins which you can take on a daily basis is egg white. Okay, egg white has a amino acid score of 91, so it's like 91% amino acids rich. So you can actually take daily an egg white, which will help you maintain a positive nitrogen balance. Okay. Now, some more terminologies are there, so I'm going to divide this page into 4 columns. I'm going to write like this. The first one is called as RDA, or in Western countries it is called as dietary value, DV. The second one is called as EAR, or estimated average requirement. The third one is called as AI, or adequate intake. The last one upper tolerable levels. So recommended dietary elements, or RDA, is the amount of nutrient. I'm not saying food, it can be anything, nutrient when consumed. 98% of the population is not deficient. Some books say it's 100%. So that is the amount of intake of that particular nutrient which should be taken so that the entire population is not deficient in that particular nutrient. But this cannot go ahead and be applied to struggling countries, middle income countries, or lower income countries, because there it is not possible that all the people can get that particular amount of food in order to hold on to this recommended dietary allowance or recommended daily allowance, whatever it is. So that kind of availability of food is restricted when it comes to middle income countries and lower income countries. So what we come up with is the amount of food that must be taken, not food or nutrient, that must be taken so that 50% population is healthy or 50% population is not deficient in that particular nutrient. So that is called as estimated average requirement, and the amount that must be taken so that life can be sustained is called as adequate intake. So in countries like Somalia, you can't even go ahead and implement estimated average requirement, because that itself is a kind of a luxury for those kind of poor people. But so you say that this is the amount you must eat so that at least you live on, okay, you carry on with your life. But as you shift your spectra towards the Western countries, United States, the Canada, or the European countries, you need to tell them that there are levels above which nutrients can become toxic. So these are called as tolerable upper levels or upper tolerable levels. So you must remember all these things. As I told you, in biochemistry, there are only 4 topics, right? I told you there are only 4 topics: carbohydrates, proteins, fats. These are the proximate principles. You need to know about their chemistries, you need to know about their metabolism, and then there is molecular biology. Molecular biology is the crux process for generating proteins. All proteins, most of the proteins are enzymes. So all the reactions in our body are catalyzed by enzymes. Okay, so these are the 4 main topics of biochemistry. But when it comes to nutrition, there is certain other micronutrients which you should be taking along with the proximate principles in order to sustain and maintain good health. So these are vitamins and minerals. So why vitamins are named so? Because they are called as vital amines. Okay, so basically they are so vital to the health of the concerned individual that all the individuals are supposed to take vitamins and minerals on prescribed levels. And when it comes to vitamins, the vitamins are classified into 2 types. One is called as a fat-soluble vitamins, which are absorbed along with fats in the intestine, and then there is the water-soluble vitamins, which are basically hydrophilic, and they get excreted in the urine. Okay, so the fat-soluble vitamins are 4 vitamins in number: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Whereas the water-soluble vitamins are basically the B complex vitamins and vitamin C. So we are going to take ahead and read them one by one. So let us start with the deficiency manifestations of the vitamins. Okay, so I'm going to start with water soluble vitamins. The water soluble vitamins, the first one is called as the vitamin B1. Okay, there will be some space which is in the front, and there's some page, space below the table column also. You can write down the extra points when I'm telling them in those particular spaces. Vitamin B1, the role is oxidative decarboxylation and HMP shunt. Not only HMP shunt, it is also involved in TCA cycle. It is also involved in TCA cycle. The deficiency manifestation of vitamin B1 is a disease called as beriberi. This beriberi is divided into two types. There is something called as dry beriberi, and then there is something called as wet beriberi. The dry beriberi affects the CNS or the nervous system, and the wet beriberi is called as wet beriberi because there is accumulation of fluid. That is because of the cardiac malfunction. That's because of the cardiac malfunction. So the dry beriberi and wet beriberi are the two types of beriberi. Other than this, we also have diseases like Wernicke encephalopathy, and Korsakoff psychosis. Korsakoff psychosis. The next vitamin is vitamin B2 riboflavin. It's also called as the yellow vitamin. It is one of the main vitamins which is involved in electron transport chain because it is also the actively the FMN and FAD forms. And when it comes to vitamin B1, we have certain MCQs. Vitamin B1. Active form is thymine pyrophosphate. TPP. And the most commonly asked MCQ when it comes to vitamin B1, which enzyme is the marker for vitamin B1? It is RBC transketolase. There is also an RBC transaldolase, which is a marker for vitamin B1 deficiency, but the most preferred answer would be RBC transketolase. You should not forget that. Vitamin B1 indicator, status indicator. Likewise, there is another MCQ. There is an enzyme called as glutathione reductase, which is a marker for B2 status. Glutathione reductase is a marker for B2 status. So vitamin B2 is the one which is involved in electron transport chain with active forms of FMN and FAD. And also, in your textbooks, you would have written vitamin B2 deficiency causes cheilitis, glossitis, and angular stomatitis. So cheilitis means lip inflammation, glossitis means tongue inflammation, angular stomatitis is edges of the mouth inflammation. Along with this, there is another one important finding when it comes to vitamin B2 deficiency. That's called as circumcorneal congestion. Circumcorneal congestion. And then we have niacin. Niacin is also called as anti-pellagra vitamin, which means the disease which is because of niacin is pellagra, and pellagra is involves 4 Ds. Diarrhea, dementia, dermatitis, and death. The active forms are NAD and NADP. Niacin is also used as an anti-lipid drug. So niacin can be used in abnormal deranged lipid profile management. About pantothenic acid, vitamin B5, it has only one function. It is an official sponsor of CoA groups. It is an official sponsor of CoA groups. And the deficiency of pantothenic acid results in a disease called as burning foot syndrome, or in Western textbooks, Grierson-Lopalan disease. It's called as Grierson-Lopalan disease. The next is vitamin pyridoxine. Pyridoxine is always called as B6. It is involved in most of the transamination reactions, also the first step of heme synthesis and glycogenolysis, and also catecholamine synthesis. The deficiency of pyridoxine can cause sideroblastic anemia, and pyridoxine deficiency occurs in anti-TB regimen. Especially there is a drug called as isoniazid. It leads to B6 deficiency. Isoniazid leads to B6 deficiency. From this particular page, 2 MCQs were asked in 2021 NEET. The first MCQ is, which is the marker of vitamin B1 status, RBC transcriptase. The second MCQ is, which drug causes vitamin B6 deficiency. So these are the two MCQs which has been asked in the last penultimate NEET examination. So 2 questions from the same page, and we have got all of them correct. Cobalamin or vitamin B12 and folic acid, they are both interrelated players. So vitamin B12 is necessary for 3 things. Number 1, DNA synthesis, and especially thymine synthesis. Second, methionine metabolism. And the third point is, comes only from animal food, which means that are vegetarians indirectly prone for vitamin B12 deficiency. Yes, but the vegetarians can obtain vitamin B12 from animal products like milk, curd, all those things. In the NEET examination, they ask one question: how do you differentiate deficiency between vitamin B12 and folic acid? Because in both folic acid deficiency as well as vitamin B12 deficiency, there is a common manifestation. It is megaloblastic anemia. It is megaloblastic anemia. Okay. Not only that, vitamin B12 deficiency causes quite a lot of diseases. Number 1, as I told you, megaloblastic anemia. Number 2, there is a disease called as subacute combined degeneration of card. Number 3, there is a disease called as pernicious anemia. That's a disease called as pernicious anemia. I will write it more clearly, or you know the. So we need to go ahead and find out what happens basically in all these diseases, and also I told you how to differentiate between vitamin B12 deficiency and folic acid deficiency. Vitamin B12 deficiency and folic acid deficiency. The difference is this particular point. Of course, there is decreased vitamin B12 here and decreased folic acid here, but there is a component called as methylmalonyl CoA. Methylmalonyl CoA. This methylmalonyl CoA is increased in vitamin B12 deficiency, whereas it is normal when it comes to folic acid deficiency. Why this is increased? Because there is the enzyme which breaks down this methylmalonyl CoA is called as methylmalonyl CoA mutase, and this particular enzyme needs B12. So when there is B12 deficiency, what happens is the enzyme methylmalonyl CoA mutase is not going to function. It's not going to function. So what will happen when the methylmalonyl CoA is not broken down? This methylmalonyl CoA accumulates, and this methylmalonyl CoA will be excreted in the urine. That is called as methylmalonic aciduria. Methylmalonic aciduria. So that is condition here. So this methylmalonyl CoA also has another fate. This methylmalonyl CoA can be converted into propionyl CoA. This propionyl CoA will go to the myelin sheath. Okay, myelin sheath is largely loosely made up of acetyl groups, and then this propionyl CoA will go and remove the acetyl groups and sit over there in the myelin sheath. So this reflects as myelin sheath degeneration, which means that the spinal column is compromised. So that is particularly called as a subacute combined degeneration of the card. What is combined means there is a temperature and there is a touch. Both fibers are going on there, so they are basically both of them are the spinothalamic tract, anterior ventral, all those things, lateral spinothalamic tract. So all of them are affected. So that is called a subacute combined degeneration of the card. Now there's the third disease, which is called as the pernicious anemia. But before we understand that, what I must say is it's particularly very notorious vitamin. This vitamin B12 enters into the mouth. Vitamin B12 enters into the mouth and becomes attached to a factor called as haptocorrin, or some people call this as R factor. Haptocorrin or R factor. So it goes to the stomach, no problem. Nobody is going to attack the vitamin B12 because it's bound to haptocorrin. But once it crosses the stomach, it needs the help of somebody. This is gastric parietal cells. Okay, this gastric parietal cells secrete something called as intrinsic factor of Castle. So once the vitamin B12 R factor complex is past the stomach, the R factor dissolutes and vitamin B12 is left alone. This vitamin B12 along with the intrinsic factor of Castle is absorbed. Vitamin B12 plus intrinsic factor of Castle is absorbed by the ileum, that's the small intestine of the small intestine. Now the problem here is what happens when there is antibodies against gastric parietal cells. So all intrinsic factor will be cut off. When the intrinsic factor is not there, the vitamin B12 will bind to the intrinsic factor for its absorption. When the intrinsic factor is not there, then vitamin B12 is not absorbed. It leads to different type of megaloblastic anemia. That particular anemia is called as pernicious anemia. It's called as pernicious anemia. So what exactly were vitamin B12 and folic acid they are doing? Both that deficiency causes megaloblastic anemia, and both of them are involved in another conspiracy. I must say this is conspiracy. This is one carbon metabolism. Both of them are involved in another phenomenon called as one carbon metabolism. What is one carbon groups? Anything which contains only one carbon. Methyl, methylene, methane, formyl, formimino. All these things are containing only one carbon, but methane is not a CH4. It's not a one carbon. So methyl, methylene, methane, formyl, formimino, all of those are one carbon groups. And during the process of metabolism, all the one carbon groups has to be, obtained from somebody, and it has to be given out for somebody else. Also, this kind of transfer of one carbon groups is done by these two flows, vitamin B12 and folic acid. And when they are not there, the entire one carbon metabolism comes to a screeching halt. So it's very, very important that one carbon metabolism is sustained, because the DNA synthesis and protein synthesis basically depends upon that. Biotin is a vitamin which is involved in all the carboxylation reactions in our body. All the carboxylation reactions in our body. Biotin is also needed for skin differentiation and hair growth. So what happens when there's a biotin deficiency? When there's a biotin deficiency, there's dermatitis and alopecia. Dermatitis and alopecia. Vitamin C is involved in a lot of processes. The most important among them is collagen synthesis. Also, vitamin C maintains iron in ferrous state, which means that it helps in the metabolism of iron, and actually helps in the functional capacity of hemoglobin. Also, vitamin C helps in common cold. All know that. And vitamin C is an antioxidant. Vitamin C is an antioxidant. And with not only vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin E. The remaining two are fat soluble vitamins, but then vitamin C is ascorbic acid and it's an antioxidant. Basically, vitamin C is always needed for hydroxylation reactions. And since because it's involved in collagen synthesis, what happens is vitamin C deficiency means there is decreased collagen synthesis or poor quality collagen being produced, which means that the wound healing is not going to be proper. And vitamin C deficiency can also cause a disease called as rickets. And that particular rickets is called as scorbutic rickets. It's called as scorbutic rickets. So that's about the water soluble vitamins, but then you need to know about the processes in detail. So I'm going to write this particular pathway here. I have already taught you this in molecular biology. I'm just going to revise that pathway. I'm just going to write that. Okay. So what exactly is, we have the molecule DUMP and it has to be converted into DTMP. Okay. So urine monophosphate has to be converted into thymidine monophosphate because uracil cannot sustain in DNA. Thymine can only sustain in DNA. How do we do that? We need to add a methyl group here. We need to add a methyl group. Who's going to get this methyl group? I already told you that methyl group is a one carbon group. One carbon group means two players are involved. One is vitamin B12, the other one is folic acid. So then let's start with folic acid. There is a folic acid called as dihydrofolate, and it is undergoing a reaction with an enzyme called as dihydrofolate reductase. So dihydrofolate is converted into tetrahydrofolate. Dihydrofolate is converted into tetrahydrofolate. And this tetrahydrofolate is converted into N5N10 methylene THF. N5N10 methylene THF. Because it adds with an amino acid called as serine. The serine hydroxymethyl transferase. So methylene THF, this methylene THF gives rise to this methyl group, and this enzyme is called as thymidylate synthase, and this requires B12. This requires B12. For your kind information, the enzyme dihydrofolate reductase was found out by an Indian scientist. His name was Dr. Yallapragada Subbarao. Yallapragada Subbarao not only found out DHFR, but he also found out the drug which inhibits DHFR, that is called as methotrexate. So he is also credited with another discovery, the enzyme dihydrofolate reductase and the inhibitor of that enzyme methotrexate. So he proposed that when we inhibit this particular enzyme, there is no tetrahydrofolate. No tetrahydrofolate means no methylene THF. No methylene THF means no DUMP to DTMP. No thymine means no DNA. So no TMP means no DNA, and no DNA means no life. So he told that methotrexate can be used as anti-cancer chemotherapy, and which is very, very valid. So this is discovery number one. This is discovery number two. However, Yallapragada Subbarao has the huge discovery to his credit. He was the one who discovered the molecule ATP. No book will, probably your books are not going to tell you that ATP The energy currency of the humans was discovered by an Indian scientist, Ella Pragadas. By Subbarao. So those are the three things which he was credited with, and it was very unfortunate he didn't get the Nobel Prize. So the other metabolic pathway is propionyl CoA is the end product of propionyl CoA is the end product of hot chain fatty acid metabolism. Hot chain fatty acid metabolism. And this propionyl CoA is converted into D-methylmalonyl CoA. It's converted to L-methylmalonyl CoA, which is converted to succinyl CoA. So here is that enzyme. Okay, this enzyme requires B12. And if this enzyme is not working, if B12 is deficient, this enzyme is not working, was accumulation of this, and this will go in urine. That's the reason why I told you in vitamin B12 deficiency, you have increased methylmalonic acid in the urine, methylmalonic aciduria, methylmalonic aciduria. So you need to be having B12 as well as folic acid at enough amounts in order to prevent the deficiency of, in order to help in DNA synthesis and in order to have a healthy life without any kind of subacute combined degeneration of the heart or microplastic anemia or pernicious anemia per se. So these are the one carbon groups. This is the methyl group. This is the methylene group. This is the methynyl group. So CH3, CH2, CH. And then you have the pharmyl group, which is the CHO group. Okay, this is also pharmyl. And this is called as a formimino group. So all of these are one carbon compounds which can be transferred from one substrate to another substrate in order for catalyzing the reactions of metabolic pathways. So methylene, methinyl, pharmyl, formimino, all those things can be used. And among these things, methyl THF is the most common circulating form. Most common circulating form is methyl THF. Why I'm saying this is, come to the next picture. So now here we have an amino acid called as methionine, and this methionine undergoes conversion to another amino acid called as homocysteine. So this homocysteine again undergoes conversion to methionine or regeneration to methionine by combining with a molecule called as methyl THF. So what happens is basically this methyl group is donated to the homocysteine, and when homocysteine accepts the methyl group, this homocysteine is getting converted to methionine. But what will happen here? The problem is at this step, we need vitamin B12. So when B12 is not present, when B12 is not available in enough quantity, all the folic acid will be trapped as methyl THF. Okay, so there's THF. This THF is converted to pharmyl THF, methynyl THF, methylene THF, and methyl THF. I told you this is the most common circulating form. So this most common circulating form of methyl THF combines with homocysteine to regenerate methionine. Okay. The enzyme name is methionine synthase. The enzyme name is methionine synthase. That's why it's written MS, methionine synthase. But methionine synthase requires B12. So when there is B12 deficiency, all the folic acid in the body are converted along this cycle into methyl THF, and they are accumulated as methyl THF, or they are trapped as methyl THF because methyl THF cannot go anywhere else. So this is called as folate trap. This is called as folate trap. So all folic acid trapped as methyl THF in B12 deficiency. In B12 deficiency. So with that, we are completing the water soluble vitamins. Now we are going to come into the fat soluble vitamins. The first among all the fat soluble vitamins is vitamin A. Vitamin A has three forms. It is retinol, retinoic acid. Al means aldehyde, all means alcohol, another one is acid. And vitamin A is needed for bone and teeth development and regeneration and differentiation of epithelia. Is also needed for spermatogenesis and reproduction. So all these things need vitamin A. And last but not the least, it is needed for vision. When we speak about vision, the vision is divided into two types. One is color vision, the other is dark vision. Color vision comes from certain types of cells called as cones, and the dark vision is dealt by a group of cells called as rods, which are present in the eyes. Let us leave the cones out of the discussion. We are only going to take hide rods. So I told you already that rods are the cells which are involved in night vision. Okay, these rods are made up of a pigment called as rhodopsin. And this rhodopsin is a combination of two chemicals, 11 cis retinol plus photopsin. Now I'm going to tell you a fictional piece, condition, simulated condition. You are walking into a theater. Okay, so you're walking into a theater. What happens is your eyes, as soon as you enter into the theater, you look up into the screen. Okay, so what happens here is the entire theater is dark, but then the light from screen is so bright that your eyes get shocked for a moment. This is called as photo bleaching. This phenomenon is called as photo bleaching, where the rhodopsin pigment, as soon as you enter into the theater, the dark vision kicks in. Okay, so the rods are trying to provide you with the night vision, but what happens is you put a lot of light into the rod suddenly. So what happens is the rods gets bleached. It just breaks down. All the rhodopsin in the rods, when exposed to light, undergoes bleaching, and it's broken down into two products. It is broken down into scotopsin, and there's a product called as all trans retinol. Now this all trans retinol cannot combine back with scotopsin. So what happens is this all trans retinol has two phases. It can either be isomerized into 11 cis retinol, or it can be converted into an alcohol form, which is again converted into an alcohol cis form, and then it is converted into a aldehyde form. But in order to do this, we need vitamin A. In order for this degeneration, we need vitamin A. So when the vitamin A is not there, then it leads to defective night vision. Defective night vision. And this particular disease is called as night blindness. The WHO has taken enough steps to eliminate night blindness, but then still even in countries like India, there's quite a lot of night blindness. That is because of insufficient intake of vitamin A. Vitamin A also there is acts via a nuclear receptor. Okay, and the deficiency of vitamin A lead to fish scales appearance in the eyes. These are called as bite or spots. Now that is an MCQ for that one. Quite often asked MCQ, vitamin A deficiency causes bite or spots. And this particular cycle is called as the Wall's visual cycle. This particular cycle is called as Wall's visual cycle. The next vitamin is the very important vitamin D, which is otherwise called as the sunshine vitamin. The other name is cholecalciferol, or active form of vitamin D is calcitriol. Triol, which means that 3 OH groups are to be there. Which means that 3 OH groups are to be there. So we have two pathways here. One is coming from the foods. This is called as ergocalciferol, and then we have the 7-dehydrocholesterol, which is broken down by ultraviolet light into cholecalciferol or vitamin D3. So this 7-dehydrocholesterol is broken down into cholecalciferol, or ergocalciferol is broken down to cholecalciferol, and this cholecalciferol undergoes hydroxylation at 2-cholecalciferol. So it has one OH group as of now, and then the same hydroxy group is attached at the 25th position at liver. So that is now considered as the second hydroxy group. So the name is changed to 25-hydroxy cholecalciferol. The enzyme is 25-hydroxylase. This 25-hydroxylase mediated conversion of cholecalciferol to 25-hydroxy cholecalciferol undergoes final addition of one more hydroxyl group. So now we have 2 OH group. We are going to add another OH group at first position in the kidneys. So now you got all the 3 OH groups. So many times the MCQ here is, where does vitamin D get activated? And vitamin D is otherwise called as anti-rachitic vitamin. Anti-rachitic vitamin. So there is another anti-pellagra vitamin, which is the anti-pellagra vitamin, vitamin B3 or niacin or nicotinic acid. 60 milligram of tryptophan gives rise to 1 milligram niacin. 60 milligram of tryptophan gives rise to 1 milligram niacin. Another MCQ. Corn, maize, foods causes pellagra. Another MCQ. Asked in ECET examination. Corn and maize rich foods, because they have certain chemicals which are preventing the absorption of niacin from the intestine. So they are leading to diseases like pellagra, corn and maize. So anti-rachitic vitamin, anti-pellagra vitamin. So you should not get confused. There's no need to get confused also. Vitamin B3 is quite well known to everyone. So 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol or calcitriol is the active vitamin D. Okay, so now this active vitamin D is involved in calcium and phosphate metabolism. Calcium and phosphate metabolism. So what happens is there are it's actually a skewed balance. Okay, we have two fellows working on this side and the two fellows, one fellow working on that side. While the two fellows working on the same side, it is vitamin D and parathermone. That is another one fellow who is working on the opposite side. This guy is called calcitonin. So basically, with vitamin D and PTH try to increase serum calcium levels, and calcitonin tries to decrease serum calcium levels. And they do this by acting at three different places. One is the bones, the other one is the kidneys, and the third one is intestine. The third one is intestine. So in the bones, the vitamin parathyroid or the hormone from parathyroid glands basically increase calcium resorption. So I'm speaking about PTH here. And in the kidneys, they increase reabsorption of calcium. In the intestine, they increase calcium absorption. So on a very grand scale, they bring a lot of calcium from bones, kidneys, and intestine into the blood. So that is precisely how they increase blood calcium levels. The calcitonin acts exact opposite to all this kind of mechanisms, and vitamin D goes hand in hand with PTH. It opposes calcitonin. The normal vitamin D levels in our body has to be 30 to 100 nanograms per liter. When it's less than 30 but greater than 20, it's mild deficiency. When it's less than 20 but greater than 10, it is moderate deficiency. When it is less than 10, it is called as severe deficiency. So vitamin D is basically linked to many types of cancers. It's linked to psoriasis, it's linked to gut diseases, inflammations. So if you need to stay healthy, then we would recommend taking enough quantity of vitamin D. There is vitamin D which is coming around at 60,000 international units, either as sachets or as capsules. So you can take one capsule per week. That is the recommended dosage for upping your vitamin D. Okay. So with that, we are coming over to the next vitamin, fat soluble vitamin, vitamin K. See, this K stands for coagulose. It was a German vitamin. The Germans find out this vitamin. Okay, Germans do not spell coagulation as C like the British do. They rather spell it like K, coagulates. Okay, so also the Germans know what have a different pronunciation for J. J is pronounced like Ya or Yo. Okay, so they don't write Jacob, or it's written as Jacob, right? Okay, both are same as far as Germans are concerned. Okay, so what the Germans found out here is vitamin K is involved in coagulation or blood clotting. How does vitamin K impact blood clotting? To know that, we must know about certain blood clotting factors. There are four factors which are vitamin K dependent factors called as uh, factor 2, factor 7, factor 9, and factor 10. Okay, now factor 2, 7, 9, 10 are basically inactive factors. So for the coagulation to happen, this factors has to be converted from inactive to active. So how or who converts inactive factor into active factor is vitamin K. Look very carefully. For 2, 7, 9, 10 to be converted from inactive to active form, you need to add a carbon dioxide here. Okay, so this process is called as gamma carboxylation. So the carbon dioxide gets added to an amino acid called as glutamate. So gamma carboxylation of glutamate residues converts the inactive 2, 7, 9, 10 into activated 2, 7, 9, 10, and you can see that this is a carboxylation in which there is no biotin involved. So already I told you that anywhere any carbon carboxylation occurs, there is biotin involved. Here there is no biotin involved. This is not the usual carboxylation. This is called as the gamma carboxylation of glutamic acid or glutamate residues. So what happens? The vitamin which you consume in food is present in a form called as vitamin K epoxide. So it's present in an oxidized form, and this oxidized form undergoes reduction. So this is called as vitamin K epoxide reductase. This enzyme is called vitamin K epoxide reductase, and this vitamin K epoxide is converted into reduced vitamin K. It is called as reduced vitamin K. And this reduced vitamin K acts with the glutamic acid residues in the presence of gamma glutamate carboxylase enzyme. Thereby, carbon dioxide is added to the glutamic acid, and there is gamma carboxyglutamic acid residues formed in factors 2, 7, 9, 10, which means that they are activated now. So gamma carboxylation has happened, means they are activated now, and all the reduced vitamin K is converted into epoxide, which is the original form. Now the cycle can again start from epoxide to reduced vitamin K. Reduced vitamin K will go and catalyze conversion of gamma carboxylation of glutamic acid residues. Now, what will happen if there is an inhibitor or there is a blockade in this particular enzyme, vitamin K epoxide reductase? So, what will happen is vitamin K epoxide cannot get converted into vitamin KH2 or reduced vitamin K. There's no reduced vitamin K, there is no gamma carboxylation, which means that the clotting factors 2, 7, 9, 10 will remain inactive. So that means that the clotting is not going to happen, and it acts like an anticoagulant, and this particular drug is called as warfarin. So warfarin and its congeners, these are called as humoral derivatives, inhibit vitamin K epoxide reductase, which means that decreased, reduced vitamin K, which means that decreased gamma carboxylation, which means that inactive 2,7,9. So clotting affected. Clotting affected. That is why warfarin is given to people who are at two conditions are there. One is people who are suffering from ischemic heart diseases, okay, and undergone bypass surgery in order to maintain their blood flow as fluid, so that thrombus will not be reformed. So that is the main purpose of giving the Kumarol derivatives or warfarin. So that is with vitamin K, and when vitamin K deficiency occurs in the babies, it leads to extensive bleeding. It's called as hemorrhagic disease of the newborn. This happens exclusively in babies with premature or preterm birth, because the liver is not so matured enough to catalyze gamma carboxylation reaction. So what happens is gamma carboxylation does not occur. Factors 2,7,9, 10 are struck. They're not activated, and it goes for quite a lot of bleeding. HDN, hemorrhagic disease of the newborn. Now, to prevent that in such kind of premature or preterm babies, we give vitamin K injections. Okay, vitamin K injections. And there's a last vitamin called as vitamin E. There is not much findings here. The only point here with vitamin E is the antioxidant, and that too, it is the most strongest antioxidant. Is the most strongest antioxidant. And also deficiency can cause neuropathy, and it has a sparing action on vitamin K. It has a sparing action on vitamin K. So all of you might be knowing what are the deficiency manifestations of all the vitamins, but probably you might not know what is the toxic manifestations of vitamin A. The toxic manifestations is increased bone thickness, which is called as hyperostosis, and increased intracranial tension, which is called as pseudotumor cerebri. And about increased vitamin D levels can lead to renal calculi and hypercalciuria. Renal calculi and hypercalciuria. Sorry, it's not hypercalciuria, it is hypercalcemia. So that's about the fat soluble vitamins. Now we are going to deal with minerals. And minerals are divided into three categories: macro minerals, micro minerals, trace elements. We'll be focusing more on macro minerals. Macro minerals is something which is 100 mg per day. This is like 50 to 100 mg per day. Anything less than 50 mg per day is trace elements, the requirement. RDA. Okay, we are speaking about RDA. Okay. So the first enzyme is magnesium. Magnesium is nothing much here. It is a cofactor for hexokinase. It is also a cofactor for adenyl cyclase. Okay, adenyl cyclase is something which converts ATP to CAMP. Also, magnesium is used in polymerase chain reaction. So these are the functions of magnesium. And about copper. Copper is one of the very important elements. Copper is needed for functioning of a lot of enzymes like superoxide dismutase, tyrosinase, dopamine hydroxylase, and even peroxidase. So all these enzymes are basically dependent upon copper for their functioning, and the transporter of copper is somebody called as ceruloplasmin. Ceruloplasmin. That is a transporter of copper, and there are two genes whose deficiency can lead to a lot of diseases. The genes are copper binding ATPase, copper binding ATPase 7A and 7B. Now, when there is a deficiency of copper binding ATPase 7A, then it leads to a disease called as Menkes disease or Menke-Kinky hair disease. But when there is a deficiency of 7B, it leads to a disease called as Wilson's disease. It's a disease called as Wilson's disease. Now I'm going to speak to you on Wilson's disease. The characteristic features of Wilson's disease are deficiency of ceruloplasmin, or somebody to take on the copper. So copper accumulates in liver, kidneys, and its copper is seen in urine. So other than that, this is a disease in which there is hepatolenticular degeneration, which means that the liver is degenerated, and then the brain lenticular nucleus is degenerated, and there is some brownish discoloration in the eyes. These are called as Kaiser-Fleischer rings. So KF rings is the name which is given to the rings which are found in Wilson's disease in the eyes. So these are the points in favor of Wilson's disease. There is nothing much to speak on chromium because chromium actually has only one use. Chromium increases insulin sensitivity. So chromium is otherwise called as GTF, or glucose tolerance factor. So GTF, or otherwise called as glucose tolerance factor. And then about manganese. Manganese is a very it's not a so very important enzyme, but if you still ask, superoxide dismutase is an enzyme which is activated by manganese, and also pyruvate carboxylase and lipase. So all these things are activated by manganese. But the same cannot be said about zinc, because zinc is very crucial enzyme. Zinc is involved in the activation of carbonic anhydrase, alcohol dehydrogenase, ALP, alkaline phosphatase, carboxypeptidase. All these enzymes are dependent upon zinc. Other than that, zinc also is a constituent of a protein, taste protein in saliva called as gustin. And zinc is also present in DNA binding proteins. These are called as motifs. So helix turn helix motif, losing zipper motif, zinc finger motif, zinc finger motif. So Gustin zinc finger motif helps replenish gut bacteria after diarrhea. So this is the reason why they give zinc syrups to the kids, okay, who are suffering from diarrhea. It helps replenish the gut bacteria. Also, zinc stabilizes the structure of insulin. So that is why the zinc is involved in the preparation of an insulin called as protamine zinc insulin. Protamine zinc insulin. The deficiency of zinc leads to a disease called as acrodermatitis enteropathica. So acro means periphery, and dermatitis, you all know what's dermatitis, the skin lesion, and entro means intestine, and pathi means disease. So acrodermatitis enteropathica. So with that, we are completing the zinc. Next, we are going to the most crucial of all the minerals. This is iron metabolism. Okay, so iron metabolism is one of the very crucial elements when it comes to mineral metabolism. That's because iron is so very important. Almost the most common cause of anemia in India is iron deficiency anemia. Okay, so iron deficiency anemia. The word anemia comes from the Greek word naimi. Greek word naimi. Naimi means blood. So lack of blood is called as anemia, and that was converted in English as anemia. Was converted in English as anemia. Also, lack of blood. Basically, it's not lack of blood, it's lack of RBCs, lack of hemoglobin, lack of iron. All those things are put together as anemia. And there's a very particular characteristic feature is microcytic hypochromic anemia. So the RBCs are very small, and as well as the RBCs are very pale. So that is microcytic hypochromic anemia. So before we go into the iron metabolism, I need you to understand two things. Number one, iron enters or exits a cell as Fe2 plus. Iron enters or exits a cell as Fe2 plus. The second point is iron gets stored or transported as Fe3 plus. Iron gets stored or transported as Fe3 plus. So let me put it this way. The iron in our foods is coming from two sources. Say, for example, we'll have something like animal iron or non-veg iron, and then we have something like plant iron or vegetarian iron. So that's a very crude way of putting something, but I can say this as heme iron, non-heme iron. Okay, so in plants, we don't have heme. The corresponding equivalent of heme in plants is chemical called as chlorophyll. Okay, in heme you have iron at the center of the pyrrole rings. In chlorophyll you have magnesium at the center of the pyrrole rings. But otherwise, both of them are dot to dot same structures. Only problem is the metal that is involved in the central portion of the particular protein. One is iron in heme and magnesium in chlorophyll. So let's take like a non-veg iron and veg iron or animal iron and the plant iron. The problem here is heme iron or the animal iron contains iron at Fe2 plus form. So that heme iron is actually very easily heme iron is very easily transported into the cell, because to enter or exit a cell, the iron has to be in Fe2 plus form. So heme iron enters into the cell very easily via this particular transporter called as heme transporter, via this particular transporter called as heme transporter. So no problem. But what happens to the non-heme ion? The non-heme ion is as Fe3 plus form. The Fe3 plus form cannot enter into the intestinal epithelial mucosal cell. So what happens is this Fe3 plus needs to be converted into Fe2 plus, and that is done by duodenal cytochrome B. That is done by duodenal cytochrome B. So this duodenal cytochrome B converts the Fe3 plus to Fe2 plus, and then the Fe2 plus is ready to enter into the cell. The person who allows the entry of this Fe2 plus into the cell is called as DMT1. It is otherwise called as divalent metal transporter 1. So it's called divalent metal transporter 1. So this DMT1 allows the ion into the cell. So now both the non-heme ion as well as the heme ion have entered into the cell, intestinal mucosal cell, and they get stored as ferritin. Ferritin is the storage form of iron. So you need to know that ferritin is the storage form of iron. So iron is stored as Fe3 plus, which means that ferritin contains iron at the Fe3 plus form. So now we have a theory named as mucosal block theory. This theory is called as mucosal block theory. So this mucosal block theory is basically a theory which states that when the iron is demanded by the human body, the iron will be supplied to the human body. But when the iron is not needed, it will be stored as ferritin inside the intestinal mucosal cell, and it will even die along with the cell if the body has never demanded iron. Okay, so this is called as a mucosal block theory. Now let's assume let's not go into the prerogative of excess iron. Let us assume the common scenario. The common scenario is there is lack of iron always. So when there's a lack of iron, what happens is the body demands iron from the intestinal mucosal cell. So the intestinal mucosal cell wants to push the iron which it has stored inside the intestinal epithelial cell into the circulation. But the problem is this particular iron is in Fe3 plus form. It is pushed across via a channel called as ferroportin. Ferroportin is a transporter which is taking down that iron and bringing it outside. So when it exits outside a cell, it has to be converted as Fe2 plus form. So Fe3 plus is converted into Fe2 plus form, and this Fe2 plus comes out via the ferroportin. So ferroportin converts the Fe3 plus to Fe2 plus, but then in order for the iron to be loaded into the transport protein is called as transferrin. I told you it is transported as Fe3 plus. So somebody has to convert this Fe3 plus 2 plus into 3 plus form. So that particular protein which converts the Fe2 plus into Fe3 plus is called as hepahestin. So this hepahestin converts the Fe2 plus into Fe3 plus, and it's loaded onto the transport protein called as transferrin and taken down into the liver or to the erythroid marrow or the bone marrow to be synthesized into the hemoglobin and RBC molecules. Now that's a very interesting story about hepahestin. Then why the protein was named as hepahestin. Uh, there was a Greek god called as Zeus. So Zeus was the numero uno god of the Greeks. So he was the number one god of Greeks. So he was living in Mount Olympus. So there was a female goddess called as Hera. So Zeus was in desire about Hera. So what he did is they conceived a child, and this particular child was born as a lame child with a disability. The leg was not, the he was lame. He was not. He was physically disabled. On seeing that a god has been born with disability, Zeus got very furious and he pushed this child from Mount Olympus into the earth. And while all this was happening, the goddess Hera was watching. So this boy who was born with a physical disability fell down from Mount Olympus to the earth for one complete day. He was falling. There was a distance between Olympus and Earth. So when he landed on Earth, he landed into the Aegean Sea, the ocean, where he was picked up by a woman. This woman had already a child, and his name was Achilles. Okay, so this was a mother of Achilles. He took up this boy also without knowing that this was a god, and she started raising this boy. Even though this boy was physically disabled, he was a very intelligent boy. He is not a boy, he is a god. He was born to gods. He grew up with the blacksmiths. The blacksmiths are the persons who forge metals and make knives, metal swords, okay, and even the thrones also. He was within a very short period of time, he made all the weapons for the wars. He made all the iron castings in the entire Greek empire, so much so that even the gods wanted him to make their weapons. Okay, so this particular boy was so superior in his uh, craft that he was named as the god of metals and metal forgings, god of the blacksmiths. Okay, his name was Hephaestus. Okay, so this particular god was named Hephaestus because he handled metals. That same name was kept for this particular protein, hepahestin, because it handled the conversion of Fe2 plus to Fe3 plus. So there was a reason for that particular nomenclature. So that was just in order to help you remember the facts. Okay, so this is about iron and metabolism. Okay, so now you all know that what happens most commonly is the disease called as iron deficiency anemia. This disease called as iron deficiency anemia. Okay, so iron deficiency anemia, whenever there is a case of iron deficiency anemia, we need to do something called as anemia profile. So anemia profile is composed of four things. Number one, serum iron. Number two, serum ferritin. This will give you an idea about the iron stores. Number three, it is called as total iron binding capacity or TIBC. And number four is called as transferrin saturation. Transferrin saturation. So whenever you have an iron deficiency anemia, you will always expect the serum iron to be low. And if it is an acute iron deficiency anemia, you can even have normal ferritin levels. But if it's a chronic iron deficiency anemia, definitely the stores would be depleted. It is decreased ferritin. Always in cases of iron deficiency anemia, the total iron binding capacity of the disease will be more. So total iron binding capacity, there's also be searching for iron, so it is elevated, but there is not enough iron to fill up the transport protein. So the transferrin saturation will be less because there is no iron to be loaded onto the transferrin. So this is the classic picture of iron deficiency anemia profile. Now iron has a bioavailability of 10%, which means that if you take 15 mg of iron daily, only 1.5 mg will be absorbed. So that much is the iron is not absorbed very well. Iron is absorbed very, very poorly. So we need around 1.5 mg as our recommended dietary allowance, so that we don't get iron deficiency. I explained you what is recommended dietary allowance. So probably you know that if everyone takes 1.5 milligram of iron per day, then there is a chance that 98% of the population is not going to be faced with iron deficiency anemia. So that is exactly the reason why 15 mg is fixed as the recommended dietary allowance. So that 15 mg, if you take, means 1.5 mg will be entering into the body. So 1.5 mg will help you prevent iron deficiency anemia. So that is about iron deficiency anemia. And then there's factors increasing the absorption of iron, and then the factors decreasing the absorption of iron. There are some very unique practices when you go to restaurants. When you go to restaurants, what happens is they bring you chili chicken. Now you know that chili chicken is a very rich source of heme iron. Okay, the vegetarian sources of iron are very limited. There's dates, there is jaggery, and then there is amaranthus. Okay, so all these are vegetarian sources of iron. But then the animal sources of iron, especially the liver of mutton, chicken, whatever, are very rich sources of iron. Okay, so the factors which are increasing the iron absorption are vitamin C. Vitamin C helps absorb iron. That is because if you come to the vitamin page, come on, I'm just going to I have told you that vitamin C maintains iron in ferrous state. Just look at the correlation here. Now, when vitamin C maintains the iron in ferrous state, what does it mean? It means that vitamin C is going to help the entry of iron into the intestinal mucosal cell, which means that because iron will be absorbed as Fe2 plus, so iron absorption will be more, so iron deficiency anemia can be prevented. So vitamin C increases absorption of iron. That is the reason why they give a lemon with chili chicken, because the lemon contains very rich source of vitamin C. Amla is the richest source of vitamin C, but worldwide the richest source of vitamin C is something called as Barbados cherry, but this is not found in your textbooks. But Barbados cherry is the #1 source of vitamin C. But As far as your textbooks go, amla is the richest source of vitamin C, and of course, lemon has a lot of citric acid or vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Okay, citrus fruits. Okay, so all the citrus fruits are rich in vitamin C. So do not throw the lemon next time you have with chili chicken. You just take it along with the chicken. Now, who's going to decrease the iron absorption? It is tannates and oxalates. So the tannins and oxalates, especially if you have gone to the restaurant like Buhari restaurant, you have biryani that will be followed by something called as the Iranian dum tea or Sulaiman tea. Okay, so you know what tea? They have a habit of taking tea after having non-veg foods. Even though it's a good combo, I'm not saying that it's a bad combo. That's a very good combo. It's not so bad. Some people used to have Coke or Pepsi with non-veg foods, but that is a bad combo. That is a bad combo because there's a lot of triglycerides going in inside your body. But this tea, which is rich in tannic acid, will decrease the absorption of iron from your non-veg food. That's not theoretically, that is a very bad option to have tea along with non-veg foods. So I'm not recommending that. So with that, we are finishing all the macro minerals. Now we'll have 2 or 3 points about the little known lesser minerals. Number one is molybdenum. Molybdenum is the cofactor for 3 enzymes. Number one, xanthine oxidase, which is involved in purine metabolism. Breakdown product of purine is a uric acid. So uric acid formation along with aldehyde oxidase, along with sulfide oxidase. So all these 3 enzymes are molybdenum dependent enzymes. The next enzyme is the next mineral is selenium. Selenium is a component of 21st amino acid in our body. Okay, the 21st amino acid is called as selenocysteine. Selenocysteine. The second point is selenium accumulates in the hairs and nails. In the hairs and nails. The deficiency of selenium was widely reported in China, and in China 2 provinces. The first province was Keshan and the second one was Kashinbek. So the deficiency of selenium caused cardiomyopathy in Keshan, Keshan's cardiomyopathy, and osteoporosis in Kashinbek. Osteoporosis in bone and joint disease in Kashinbek province of China. So that's about selenium. Fluoride, one of the very important minerals. The only sources of fluoride are toothpaste and water, drinking water. That too, drinking water. And fluoride, the problem with fluoride is not fluoride deficiency, but the problem with fluoride is excess of fluoride. See, in community medicine, you will have a lot of guidelines there at the point of production of water, that much fluoride should be there, and the pipes, that much fluoride should be there at the point of delivery of water in your home, taps, this must be having this much parts per millions of fluoride, all those things. But as far as we are concerned, excess of fluoride is a problem, because less than 2 ppm, 2 to 5 ppm, greater than 5 ppm. So this fluoride as such can cause dental caries, it can cause abdominal pain. At worst case scenarios, when the fluoride is so much excess, it can cause something called as skeletal fluorosis, and especially the joints. there is a deformity called as genu valgum. So it can cause crippling disease. It is called a crippling deformity. So it can cause a lot of problems as far as fluoride is consumed in excess. About iodine, iodine has only one particular significant point. Iodine is a component of thyroid hormones. That is the reason why the government has taken up an initiative of adding iodine along with salt, because every household will consume salt. This is called as food fortification. So when you take iodine salt, iodized salt, there is a less likelihood of people getting goiter or hypothyroidism. That is because of iodine deficiency per se. So that's about minerals, and given you an overall idea about minerals. So the next 2 pages will give you tabular columns of the RDA values of vitamins and minerals, but there is a small correction here. See, all these picograms, no picograms, all of them are micrograms. Okay, so they don't find that symbols. Okay, so they put up as P. It is not P, it is the mu symbol. Okay, so wherever there is picograms, just change that into micrograms. The milligrams will remain the same. So the milligrams will remain the same. All the picograms, none of this is a picogram. We are only dealing with micrograms. Okay. So this is the RDA values of vitamins. So all the vitamins you have RDA values. Okay. Then you also have RDA values for minerals. The same goes here also. There is no picogram. It's all micrograms. So you can see the RDA value of iron. I told you that exactly. 15 mg. That is because the bioavailability of iron is only 10%, which means that 1.5 mg it will go in. So that is the amount which is required to prevent iron deficiency anemia. So that much is the amount of iron you must consume if you want to be free from iron deficiency anemia. So the last topic for the day is protein energy malnutrition. So I already told you protein energy malnutrition. There are two entities. One is undernutrition, another one is overnutrition. So overnutrition leading to obesity. I'm not talking about that. I'm already talked to you about two diseases. These two diseases are kwashiorkor and marasmus. Kwashiorkor and marasmus. So the first point, kwashiorkor occurs in babies with 6 to 12 months age. 6 to 12 months age. And it occurs after solid feeding started. So as long as the mother was feeding the breast milk, the baby was fine. So when they had started the solids, or when the baby was deprived of the breast milk, then the problems started to kick in. Okay, when the baby will be deprived of the breast milk means another baby has come. It's basically an African term, kwashiorkor. So not sudden, poor spacing of pregnancies leading to first baby suffering because of the incoming second baby, that leads to a deficiency of proteins. So it is basically protein deficiency. So this protein deficiency causes hypoalbuminemia, which is presented as edema, and there is fat accumulated in the liver, fatty liver. So all these things will look like protuberant abdomen. The child will look like protuberant abdomen. But marasmus is a very severe disease. It occurs in the newborn babies less than 6 months of age, because the problem is insufficient breast milk. The mother is not even able to feed the baby. So this is a state of calorie deficiency. This is a state of calorie deficiency. The child appears wasted, and it is also shunted, paper like skin, old man like appearance. So that's about marasmus. So these are the two diseases that come under undernutrition. So the other one is overnutrition, which is obesity. So with this, we have completed nutrition, vitamins, and minerals, which is one of the very important topics for NEET examination. A lot of questions has been asked, is being asked, and will be asked as far as NEET examination is concerned, because nutrition is one of the hardcore biochemistry topics, and it's one of the easier topics also, which means that it puts you at a risk of you cannot afford to commit a mistake when it comes to answering questions pertaining to nutrition, vitamins, and minerals. Wishing you all the very best, and thank you for staying with us tonight. And thank you on behalf of EDA Plus, and thank you from Dr. Balasubramanian. So you have any doubts, you can leave in the comment box, or you can leave your feedbacks also in the comment box, because I'm going to leave that open for the next 1 or 2 minutes. And always, good night. Thank you so much.